Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of This Week in Magic Online Finance. Thank you so much for joining me here yet again, and as always, let's get started with the news. And this week, well, spoiler alert, it is nothing but news. Not only do we have to cover the release of Theros Beyond Death on Magic Online, but we also have to deal with the fallout from one of the largest modern ban announcements of all time. So instead of our normal structure, I figured we'd cover both stories in detail, including all of the biggest movers and shakers of the week in their proper context. Let's start with the modern bannings. Early last Monday, Wizards of the Coast banned 3 key cards in Modern: Oko Thief of Crowns, Mycosynth Lattice, and of course, Mox Opal. Now, I don't know about you, but these last 2 cards were a little surprising to me. I told you all last week that an Oko ban was all but certain, but I figured that something like Urza or Mishra's Bauble would be banned before Mox Opal, since the latter card has been so iconic for so long. But no. WotC finally got sick of Mox Opal shenanigans, and I guess they felt that banning Urza or something would really only delay the problem and force them to reevaluate Opal the next time they printed a powerful card in, like, Modern Horizons 2 or something. By banning Mox Opal now, they can print other broken stuff in the future without having to worry about how it might interact with the zero-cost Mox. I'm not saying for sure that this was the right call, I truly don't know, but I can certainly see their logic in hindsight. As I'm sure you can imagine, these banned cards aren't exactly having a great week in terms of prices. Oh, they'll still hold some of their value in the world of paper Magic, where casual play and Commander Demand are big factors, but on Magic Online, not so much. Mox Opal dropped 30 tickets this week from 38 all the way down to 8, and I expect it'll settle in around 5 tickets or so. Mox Opal sees enough play in Legacy and Vintage to keep it from hitting 0, but I doubt it'll be heading up over the 10 ticket mark again anytime soon. Oko Thief of Crowns, on the other hand, didn't drop quite as far. It fell just 15 tickets from 25 down to 10. But I do suspect it has even further to fall than Mox Opal. Oko sees a little play in Legacy and Vintage, but as with the former card, those markets just aren't enough to keep the Planeswalker's price afloat. They're niche formats at best, and I'd just rather not be holding any cards that can't see play in Modern and Pioneer ever again. Moving on to Mycosynth Lattice. The card had already fallen somewhat out of favor, and its price was down to just 2.5 tickets as of last week, but WotC banned it anyway because they didn't want Tron roaring back up the leaderboards and dominating Modern in the wake of their bigger ticket bannings. The Lattice would have honestly been my pick for the biggest potential gainer of the week had it not been preemptively banned, but alas, the card is now down below the 1 ticket mark, and that's where it's gonna stay. Legacy and Vintage should keep it from going all the way to 0, just like the others, but yeah, just none of these cards are attractive buy low opportunities. Over the past couple of days, a few other Modern cards have also dropped in price as certain decks decreased in viability due to the bannings. Urza Lord High Artificer dropped 4 tickets from 14 down to 10, while Mishra's Bauble dropped 3 from 20 down to 17. And I admit, I was expecting a little more carnage, but the Modern market was already so low that it just didn't happen. Cards that fell quite a bit in paper Magic, like Arcbound Ravager, were already just fractions of a ticket on MTGO, so they really had nowhere to fall. Here's the other piece of the puzzle. Urza and Mishra's Bauble actually appear to be on the rise again. The Urza decks, they're going to survive the losses of Oko and Mox Opal, they just probably won't be utterly dominant. And now that the Modern metagame is exciting again, the whole index is on the move. So paradoxically, even if a card like Urza sees less play now in Modern than it did last month, it actually has higher price upside because people are excited about Modern, so demand is going to go up. Speaking of Modern excitement, I've been telling you for weeks that the market would eventually start to pick up as soon as WotC banned Oko. And that appears to be what's happening this week. So, I hope you all bought your Modern cards back when I told you to. We still do have a ways to go, admittedly, but it says a lot that Renin 6 was our biggest overall gainer of the week, surging a full 50 tickets from 30 all the way up back to 90. And that's as of mid-afternoon on Saturday, where the card's price chart still looks like a dang rocket ship pointed straight at the moon. In fact, by the time you're watching this video, Renin 6 should be comfortably up over the 100 ticket mark. Renin 6's meteoric rise makes quite a bit of sense. The card was up over the 150 ticket mark the last time Jund was good in Modern, and the deck looks pretty well positioned in the post-ban format. Nobody wants to pay that much for their copies of Renin 6, of course, so people are buying in now preemptively. I wouldn't be surprised if there are some other big volatile swings for Renin 6 over the next couple of weeks as the format actually shakes out, but I don't think it's dropping below the 50 ticket mark again anytime soon. If you want to play Jund, well, I hope you already have your copies, otherwise I'd wait for the next drop and just see how low it gets. There were quite a few other Modern cards that saw gains this week. Plague Engineer, Cavern of Souls, Amulet of Vigor, Sunbaked Canyon, Fiery Islet, Karn Liberated, Seasoned Pyromancer, and Liliana of the Veil. These cards didn't gain nearly as much as Renin 6, they all went up between 3 and 10 tickets, but it shows that the Modern Index is finally waking up from its winter slumber. The Modern Index's immediate future will depend quite a bit on how the new metagame shakes out, but if it's fun, you can expect these gains to continue. Let's move on now to Pioneer, where prices actually took a pretty decent tumble this week. Let's talk about cards like Chandra Torch of Defiance, Liliana the Last Hope, Rekindling Phoenix, Kalidas Trader of Get, Mutavault, and Jace Friend's Prodigy, which all lost between 5 and 7 tickets this week, with quite a few other Pioneer staples losing value in the 2 to 3 ticket range. So, is Pioneer dying and should we all panic sell our collections? No, always no. These losses are a direct result of people needing money to buy back into Modern, as well as wanting to pick up new cards from Theros Beyond Death. Here's the thing. Usually it's the Modern market that sees a drop when a new set is released because people sell their staples in order to buy new cards. But since Modern was already in the toilet, and people are excited about it because of the bannings, it was Pioneer that suffered this time around. These losses usually last for 2, maybe 3 weeks, and then the key staples tend to rebound. So, if you're looking to buy into Pioneer for the long term, wait until closer to the end of the month and then try to pounce. Speaking of Theros Beyond Death, let's move on to our second big story of the week. Now, don't forget, there are now 4 factors that can affect the price of new cards on Magic Online. There's Standard, there's Pioneer, there's Modern, and then there's Set Redemption. Standard is probably the least relevant of the 4, but it does have an effect on Set Redemption, so sometimes important Standard Mythic rares can be worth quite a bit on Magic Online, despite not actually seeing much play on the client. And this is especially true during the first week or 2 after a set's release, when prices on MTGO tend to mirror prices in paper Magic a lot closer than they do later on in a set's lifespan. So far, the 2 most expensive Theros cards on MTGO, by a pretty large margin, are Heliod Suncrowned and Uro Titan of Nature's Wrath. And as of this recording, Heliod is at 52 tickets and trending down, while Uro is at 49 tickets and trending up. By the time you watch this, it's quite likely that their positions will be flipped, and Uro will be the most expensive card in Theros Beyond Death. At this point, I'd be skeptical of buying into either card. Uro does seem to be performing well in early testing, while Heliod hasn't been showing up as much, but most folks are still focused on figuring out the new Standard format, not Modern or Pioneer. So at this point, the formats that will have the most effect on these cards' value going forward on Magic Online are still mostly unknown, so I wouldn't buy in right now, since these cards are only going to end up being worth it at 50 tickets if they become staples in Pioneer or Modern. Otherwise, they'll just be heading down toward the 20 ticket mark sooner rather than later. Looking at Theros' second pricing tier, we get quite a few cards that are currently selling between 5 and 15 tickets on Magic Online. Erebos, Calyx, Thassa, Elspeth, Clothes, Croxa, Underworld Breach, Dryad of the Elysian Grove, Ox of Agonius, and Ashiok Nightmare Muse. And I can guarantee you I pronounced at least most of those wrong, but I'm doing my best for now. At this point, Ashiok and the Dryad seems to be the only ones trending up, while the others are all either trending down or simply treading water. At this point, it's too early to say where these cards are going to end up, but any mythic rare that sees play in either Modern or Pioneer has a lot of room to grow. If you're an expert in either format, you should absolutely be picking up any of these mid-tier cards as they start to catch on. Otherwise, I'd just hold off. Prices overall tend to drop off after the first week or two of a given set release, and they'll probably bottom out near the end of the month. So don't just blindly buy in, but if you sense something about to pop off, I would pick up that specific card, and I'll let you know as soon as I hear something. As always, let's end the week by taking a look at the MTGO Trader sales data over the past 7 days. And this gives us a great idea of what cards are the most popular on Magic Online right now, regardless of price increases or decreases. Looking at overall sales by volume, you can't really see the effects of Theros Beyond Death just yet. The set has only been out for a couple of days as of this recording, so the cards at the top of this list had, a 4 to 5 day head start over the Theros staples. And it's all the usual suspects, things like Fatal Push, Thoughtseize, and Mystical Dispute. I would, however, like to give an honorable mention here to Yawgmoth Thran Physician, which sold really well early last week thanks to a new modern deck that caused the price to spike from 4 tickets all the way up to 15 tickets before heading back down toward the single digits later in the week. Now, Yawgmoth could spike again if the deck actually ends up catching on, but it seems like most of the people just wanted to sell into the spike, so as of now the card is trending downward again. In terms of overall sales by price, the big winner of the week by a lot was actually Teferi Time Raveler. We haven't talked about Teferi yet this week, but it actually spiked about 10 tickets from 60 up to 70 before dipping back down to 65. And Teferi sees a lot of play across all formats, so I wouldn't be surprised if this trend line continues awkwardly bouncing upward over the next couple of weeks. Demand is certainly there. Speaking of demand, I was shocked to see that Renin 6 wasn't actually all that close to the top of this list. That card may have jumped 50 tickets this week, but it didn't actually sell all that well. And that surprises me. It speaks to just how low the available supply is for this card. It didn't take a lot of sales to cause this spike. I'm still personally bullish on Renin 6 going forward, but if you're looking for red flags in its current price surge, well, here you go. And that's all I've got for you this week. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you again next Monday morning for another episode of This Week in Magic Online Finance.